So in January of this year, I heard that my mom had a stroke. My mom's 77 years old, and the hospital called me and told me that not only did she have a stroke, but she had a host of other life-threatening conditions that were all occurring at once. She had type 2 diabetes. She had lesions in her chest. Her breast cancer had come back all of a sudden and had metastasized into stage 4 breast cancer. And she was experiencing organ failure. A few weeks later, I found out that she had a pneumonia and then a heart attack before being discharged, and that she was in the ICU. I got a call from the ICU pretty much telling me that I needed to make arrangements for her funeral or end, and I wasn't going to accept this because I'd already experienced like the amazing benefits of the crystals in my life. Not 6 months prior, I'd been working with the crystals that I'm wearing, and they helped me heal my PMS ever so gently until it went away. And I knew that I could reach out to you and that you could offer help to my mom also in this 11th hour of her need. You were very receptive and responsive, and within the next day, you got a whole package of gemstone crystals specifically and deliberately made for my mom's health condition and energy in the mail. And I felt really happy to put them around her neck the next week when I got to visit her in person in the ICU. Not shortly after, I got to see the effects of the gemstones immediately start helping her. It was interesting in retrospect, as we've talked about, that the gemstones started healing my mom's organs from her most vital organs that needed to recover the quickest, and then subsequently to the rest of her body. So when my mom was on the ICU, she was on a breathing tube to help her breathe. She was on a balloon heart pump to pump blood for her heart. And she had a central line, a bunch of IVs, a feeding tube. It was pretty hard to look at, and I couldn't talk to her. But then within a series of days, being with her wearing the crystals, she didn't need the ventilator anymore. They pulled that out of her mouth because she started breathing on her own. And then the next thing that her body was able to do was her heart was able to start healing. It started pumping on its own, first one pump and then each pump for her own heart until the balloon pump was removed. They removed the central IV line, and the nurses were looking really excited because she was doing much better than a lot of people at the ICU. So one day I wanted to go visit her again at the ICU, as I'd been doing, and then I got informed like, hey, look, your mom's not here anymore. Like, we transferred her to a different floor of the hospital. She's actually doing much better. She doesn't need this intensive care unit. We can focus on getting her other things. So she had speech therapy. She was able to get off the feeding tube. She was learning how to swallow again. I could have a conversation with her. Her voice was coming back stronger. It was really like happening so fast that I couldn't really process it all emotionally because it was just so quickly, like one thing after another. And then as the days went on to become weeks, and then within the month, like other things really nice started happening too. For example, her insulin that she had been getting for her diabetes. I was checking with the nurses regularly to see how her vitals were doing, her stats, and then they said, oh, we didn't give your mom insulin today. And I would say, well, what about yesterday? And they said, no, not yesterday either. And so then, of course, I asked the question, well, does she have diabetes anymore? And then they're like, doesn't look like it. And then, this was kind of a recurring experience with other doctors, her neurologist, and then the internal medicine doctor. They started confirming that, her brain chemistry was actually kind of stabilized and fine, and her cognition was fine, and the the speech therapist said that she was fine, and she went from liquid food to solid food, and things seemed to be progressing very nicely. Even her internal organs were doing so much better that there wasn't like total organ failure. That had just disappeared. The liver was fine. The kidneys were fine. It seemed like her whole body was coming online bit by bit. So even though she had suffered the stroke and there were still like physical things that needed to be healed, the doctors and the social workers all told me like, look, we're going to be releasing your mom pretty soon to go to rehab. And that was really, really lovely, because not a few months earlier, I was being told like to make preparations for my mom's imminent death. And then now here we are, like making preparations for her to go to the next stage of her healing and eventually to come home to me. So when she was in acute rehab, we got to see even more things go well. I saw her physically start to improve. Like she no longer needed the nurses to help her like use the restroom and to clean her. She started being able to do things like that for herself. Her mobility improved from being bedridden and unable to move her foot. They helped her from first a state of maximum assistance to, medium moderate assistance, to the point where I got to see her physically go from 10 feet to 50 feet to 100 feet walking. And then the nurse told me, oh, your mom's going about 300, 400 feet. And I'm like, how far is that? And they're like, well, that's 1 or 2 times around the facility. And I was like, really? My mom was doing that much walking so quickly after this stroke? It was kind of a magical, shocking, lovely thing to hear and see and take in. And then she went to another rehab facility shortly after. Obviously, there's like ebbs and flows with the health journey, but she went to climbing stairs and walking faster. And then this rehab said like, hey, we're going to be releasing your mom next week. She's coming home. So what a nice feeling to realize that the first 3 months she was in the hospital, getting better, and then the Gemstones progressed her to the point that she could do so well at the rehab. And they were really like also happy, like, people don't do this well at the rehab. Your mom's doing great. And I kept hearing this like from all these different people, regardless of their position or role. They were all like excitedly happy that she had beat the prognosis and the expectation of not just the stroke and the heart attack recovery, but like even the diabetes, and then even like her cancer. I do remember speaking to one of her cancer doctors over the phone, and he said that her cancer had just stopped growing. The tumors weren't progressing and spreading in her chest. And that was really interesting, that like the cancer stopped, like all the negative cascade of like total organ failure had just pretty much stopped and started reversing since she started wearing the necklaces and was, on this healing journey. My mom didn't have to do much to think about it to receive the healing. She just had to wear the necklaces every day like I did. Often she was sleeping and recovering as people do from a stroke, but I just told her like, look, talking with you, like these necklaces need to be, energetically around you at all times, and they will help you. And I'm really, really happy to see that they have been helping, because, initially when you get that kind of news, it's hard to have faith. And a lot of people on the internet are just like thoughts and prayers and positive wishes to you. And some people even send you condolences before someone dies because they didn't really read or hear what you said to them. But like to witness someone actually healing, it is like witnessing faith and miracle in action, and being able to look back on it now from the trauma and the stress and the total chaos of like hearing news like that, to like the kind of things I was hearing, positively, is quite a change. And of course, you expected that. You told me that you had a lot of assurance in my mom's healing capacity and the power of gemstones. But because this was the first time a family member of mine had been through something so traumatic and so many, coinciding health issues, it really was like a leap of faith for me as a person to witness it. And it was, as stressful as it was, like one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life. So being home, we're having a nice time. At first, I thought she would need a lot more care than she's actually needing. She did have the requisite home health come and help her with like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. They did a great job. They were actually also impressed that my mom was more mobile than they thought she would be, because they work with a lot of people and see people in their conditions every day. And I'm happy to share that my mom goes to the kitchen and makes her own food. And I didn't need to hire a caregiver all the time if I want to go out for the day or have her. She doesn't need really to get much help because she can go to the restroom on her own. So yeah, it's a wonderful unfoldment. Our friends are coming over. We're having dinners together. Sometimes when I take my mom out for a checkup, like yesterday with a doctor's appointment, we can have lunch. In fact, yesterday we went to the podiatrist, and for all these months, she's been telling me her foot's in so much pain, like a level 10 pain constantly. And then this last week, I said, "How's your pain?" And she's like, "Oh, it's like a 2. My foot's feeling a little lighter." So we went to the podiatrist yesterday to see, like, how's your foot doing? What does it need? And then the podiatrist came, checked her foot. She told him her concerns. But he said, "You're doing so much better than most people that had a right ischemic stroke. Like you're doing quite well." And he asked us, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, we're just chilling at home." And my mom's wearing her gemstones. And he's like, "Well, we'll make a follow-up appointment for next month, but there's not much for you to do except use this CBD balm on your feet at night, and take it easy. And here's a better insert sole for your shoe." It was really that simple. So the lovely discovery is that as we go to doctors to get follow-ups, we're needing them less and less. They don't seem to be very concerned. There's no stress or any real attention to anything that needs to be corrected. It's more of just a maintenance and like watch and see. And it's so normalized. People treat her so normal now. It's quite a reflection to think that just 6 months ago, they were telling me to have her die and I should make preparations for her death. And now we're making all these beautiful preparations for things we want to do to celebrate life, like maybe visit her family again in Hawaii, the places we'd like to go to around town, maybe go read and hang out at the beach and look at people, get a tea, like basic wonderful things that everyone wants to do with people they love. So really the message here is to share this testimonial that not only have the gemstones worked for me and helped me with the PMS that I've had for 10 years, but they work for my mom. And I knew that crystals had healing properties, having worked in a gem and mineral store for many years, but because they hadn't affected me, I never had anything at this level. I kind of thought about it more on a theoretical, conceptual level, like symbolic healing. But like wearing these stones, it's the first time I got to physically feel the effects of the crystals and realize, like, yes, they're for real. These stones have amazing properties when they're the right ones for you as an individual. And yeah, they can change your life. What I like to share with anyone watching is that, don't wait as long as it happened for our family. Don't wait till an 11th hour, crisis to do something as nice as the crystals. The doctors are very helpful. They can make diagnoses, look at charts, and treat conditions. But like my experience with these stones, like you described, is that they really do work on you from the inside out. There is a natural progression, like you said. They heal the part of you that needs the most healing first, and then the effects just kind of continue on ever so gracefully and gently. And my mom and I are both wearing our necklaces together. We're a little gemstone team, and we're having a lot of good days together. My friends are less stressed. We watch a lot of funny movies together and travel shows, and it's just so lovely that I can reflect on a little over a half a year and say, like, what a transformation. This isn't something I'm seeing in a movie, with a resurrection, life after death. This is like a real life miracle before your eyes, and there weren't any special effects. It was just unfolding in real time. And wow, beautiful. Wow.
Awesome.